All right, guys, take a moment to watch this little film clip from my friend Asim Malhotra. It's called First Do No Farm. It's talking about corruption within the pharmaceutical industry. So check this out.
Saying, I'm paraphrasing now, saying, it's a shame the cardiovascular risks are there, meaning he knew that there was an increased risk of serious cardiovascular complications. It's a shame the cardiovascular risks are there, but the drug will do well and we will do well. We will do well, meaning the executives with their stock options will benefit from the sale of Vioxx, which on the first day of unblinding, they understood doubled the risk of serious cardiovascular complications.
How do you explain this kind of behavior? Isn't it unethical? Isn't it evil? What would you say this kind of behavior? How can a scientist act in such a way?
It's mind-boggling. I mean, I was on the front lines of family practice. We work hard. We read our journals. We try to practice evidence-based medicine. And it turned out that one of the chief executives at Merck, the head of research at Merck, actually knew about this danger and yet was having the drug reps come in and tell us to prescribe Vioxx ostensibly because it was safer when it was more dangerous. And I think that these executives are embedded in a culture that accepts the goal of maximizing sales of drugs. And yet it's also a culture that's quite confident that people won't be held personally responsible. So the head of Merck Research, who knew about the cardiovascular events, not only was he not held responsible for his participation, his facilitating the harm of so many Americans, but he ended up fine, and he went on and was promoted to a prestigious position in another organization when he left Merck. There was no penalty.
You buy stock in a pharma company, right? And they have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors to make money, no matter how they do it. That's their job. Like it's implicit within a corporation that you're going to invest in me and I'm going to make money for you. It's like, their job is not to behave ethically. Their job is to make profit, right?
I don't want to throw the baby out of the bathwater here. Modern medicine has a very important role to play in improving people's health, curing diseases, treating people acutely and saving lives. But what has happened is they are now out of control as an entity that is purely there to make money. And we are now, in my view, doing more harm than good.
Well, we don't know exactly how many people are killed by research fraud in medicine, but we do know that there's an estimate that the frauds in 6 papers by Don Poldermans may have resulted in as many as 800,000 patient deaths, excess patient deaths. So if one research fraudster can cause that many excess patient deaths, and we think about all the very many research fraudsters with a significant proportion of research being fraudulent, 30% of gynecological randomized trials containing false data, we're talking about many millions of people killed by research fraud in medical science.
All right, so I mean, obviously that's got to be disturbing, and really the situation hasn't changed much. You know, there's been, billions and billions of dollars of fines have been levied against these companies for various, deceptive and sometimes criminally negligent or fraudulent type activities, and yet no one is really held to account for this stuff. And in fact, at one point they were talking about the Vioxx scandal, and it was something like, 50,000, 60,000 people dead. And they knew about it. I mean, they literally knew this was likely to happen, and yet nothing happens. And so, number one, we should get pharmaceutical advertising off of TV. That should be a no-brainer, because they not only, it's not so much that they, are advertising to their customers, is that they're controlling the media. They're controlling the media narrative. They suppress stories that might otherwise be investigated or get out, because these media companies are dependent upon those advertising dollars. And then secondly, as I believe that, we should be really skeptical and scrutinize how medical research is done. These pharmaceutical companies don't even share their data a lot of times. Remember, they will often do a study, they'll publish the results, but the results are their own internal results, which they themselves interpret. And even the peer reviewers don't get to see the raw data, which is that also should not be allowed, right? So anyway, pharmaceutical industry corrupt. I mean, as you saw in the film, I think they get something like 65% of their funding for any kind of drug approvals are coming directly from the pharmaceutical industry. That cannot continue to happen, right? So anyway, guys, we got some work to do. Hopefully that'll change. But if it doesn't change, you need to know that you cannot trust the science when the science is bought and paid for. I mean, again, we should realize this now. And I think we're going to see this with some of these newer drugs that are out now. Same thing happening, 5-10 years down the road. Many people injured or killed, swept under the drug, fine is paid. That's no longer acceptable. Particularly if these people are found to suppress information or to fraudulently create research, or if they know ahead of time that people are going to be injured and they still allow it to happen, those people should be in jail. All right, guys, talk to you soon.